Welcome to Circles Off, episode number 60. I'm Rob Pizzola, joined by Johnny from Betstamp. What's up?
How are you, Rob?
I'm doing well. I'm very much in golf mode, which is why I'm very excited for our guest this week. I attended the RBC Canadian Open this weekend. It was a blast, and we do have the US Open this week. So we're going to welcome in a very special guest, a former co-worker of mine, legend around the office at Hardcore Sports Radio about a decade ago. You can follow him on Twitter at Feinberg17. He's part of the Mayo Media Network and Odds Checker US. He also loves Philip Rivers more than you love your own mother. Geoff Fienberg, welcome to Circles Off. How's it going, Geoff?
It is going well, Rob. And as you sort of just read through my Twitter bio and make that Philip Rivers comment, I've literally had moments where I don't mean to go off topic, but I'm genuinely concerned for every person in my life, because if I fell that hard for well above average Philip Rivers, it's really scary. Should be really scary to everyone I know where the relationship might go with my heart and Justin Herbert. If I fell that hard for significantly above average quarterback play in Philip Rivers.
People, I'll share a story about Geoff. You may or may not remember this, Geoff, but this is maybe in the first or second year we were working together. We were probably making like nothing, peanuts, to work at Hardcore Sports Radio. Like, I'm talking $30,000 a year, poverty line type of salaries. And Geoff was such a huge Rivers fan. He wanted to get him on one of our shows. So he pledged that he would donate $500 to the Rivers of Hope Foundation if we could get Rivers on the show. Remember, we're in our early 20s. This is a big amount of money for us. Ultimately, we couldn't land Philip Rivers. It was very depressing. But that was a very classy move by you, Geoff, to even offer up that $500 at the time. Big amount of money.
Yeah, weird. I don't know why I did that. I must have still been living at home at the time, Rob. On that salary I had to have been, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I was living in the street on that salary with the gambling debts I had at the time, but such is life. We move on now, and Geoff, all right, let's give everyone a bit of a personal background. We like to do that with our guests in the intro here. Let everyone know how you got involved in the betting space, Geoff.
So, like a lot of people, I kind of just been betting forever. But Rob, I guess in many ways, getting into the betting space just correlated with the fact that that decade ago, I had an internship at the Score, and maybe I could have been in archives. Maybe I could have been with like the boring people, but I got spun into the wheel of hardcore scam, and shortly thereafter, you and a lot of other people who have gone on to do fun things in the space in recent years. So I guess that would be my intro. That led to me doing a lot of like grunt work in sports media in Toronto, working at the Score, working at TSN, leading me to take a job at a startup that also didn't pay very well. But at that very place, I met Pat Mayo, and I was sort of at an age where I needed to move on, and I was ready to move on, and my wife was ready for me to move on. And I literally told my wife, like, no, this guy, telling you, like, honey, like this guy, Pat, like, let me just stick this out a little bit longer. I have a really good feeling about this. And it's just created a lot of different opportunities for me to do a lot of different sort of freelance stuff and make a bit of a name for myself in the niche ecosystem that is golf Twitter, that has grown so much since I started, that part of it in 15, 16, but really since like COVID, it's kind of exploded and then in an even bigger explosion as sports gambling has sort of become, overexposed, I guess we could say, in the last handful a bit of time. But all those sorts of things converging at once created this opportunity where I find myself today. And I guess over the years, Pat and I have been more lucky than we are good at picking golf, but we've had fun doing it, and it has led to a other really fun opportunities.
Well, you've certainly grown your following in the golf betting space. You are kind of like a household figure now. I think a lot of my friends who didn't follow my content in my early 20s now know you through the advertised Twitter promos for Proline Plus, where you are a regular face, which I actually find hilarious.
Yeah, I find that hilarious too. I've never I guess I don't mean to like shit on that thing. It was something I did, but I tried to tell these people, like, you're having me speak right to Ontario. I just speak to golf fans. They had me doing March Madness. They've never even had me do a golf tournament. It's really that one deal, and I don't mean to go off track, which it kind of just shows you how like no one really knows what they're doing behind the scenes right now. And like there is kind of just money flying into anyone's coffers, I guess, but I don't, it's a really awkward relationship. I hope it continues. That being said, I told them, like, I don't think they utilized me properly one time, but that's on them. The check cleared.
Fair enough. The check cleared, and that's really all that's important, I guess. We'll have to chat off air on the deal specifics, because that's probably one for the ages. We saw they definitely put a lot of money behind promoting that as well, because it kept showing up on all my feeds. Anytime I'd search anything Ontario betting related, I see this guy's face pop up with a Proline Plus banner attached.
We can end that discussion.
Geoff, I came from, oh, by the way, I should fill everyone in. That's gonna be impossible for me to say Geoff, because I know Geoff as Geoff for years from a fellow coworker. So just in case anyone's wondering, that's just kind of like a nickname that Geoff had back in the day. Just curious on your take coming off of the RBC Canadian Open. I was there on Saturday at St. George's. I don't think you were able to make it out because of the leg injury, which seems to be going well in terms of recovery. But what were your overall thoughts just watching on TV from friends who may have made it out? Do you think the tournament ended up being a big success?
Oh, I thought it was an absolute home run. Golf Canada, St. George's, the leaderboard, every aspect of it. And as you, I think, mentioned off the top, my club is hosting next year. It's going to be an incredibly difficult act to follow. That performance they put on at St. George across the board. I think everybody in the golf space like took notice of Canada and the fans, and then we're such a proud sporting nation to begin with, so I don't think anyone here was surprised by the outpouring of support locally. Do you think that the score bet is going to have a crane hanging over Oakdale next year for the Canadian Open? Possibly. I mean, that was an incredibly, in my opinion, successful activation just based on the retweets that you get, like from people like, whoa, I don't think I would go up there. I'd do like a gondola thing, like with my kids, like a 6 and a 3-year-old a few months ago. I didn't enjoy that. So I don't think I would enjoy being suspended up there. I don't need to be uncomfortable. My father actually did take the trip up.
We talked about it last week.
Yeah.
Did it live up?
I have some pictures, which I posted in the betstamp Discord. We'll post the Discord link on our CirclesOff Twitter account for anyone who wants to join that. But the view wasn't so great. It was innovative. Like but it was just a little bit too far from the golf course. A lot of people's backs, like we suspected, would have their, a lot of people would have their backs to the course, which you can't see anything. The chairs kind of swivel like a little bit, but you're harnessed in. Very difficult. I think it's just like more for the market. It's a genius marketing idea. Let's call it out for what it is. Execution. I mean, I was there on Saturday. The crane was on the ground for 3 hours of the day where it didn't go up. I don't know if it was like calling for rain or winds or whatever, but we're talking about it again for a second straight week. So I think that's just a sign in and of itself that it was a well-executed idea.
It's PR, man. Enough about this PR. We're giving too much free promo to Proline Plus.
Proline Plus and the Score Bet are loving this episode of Circles Off. But
are they?
We're talking about any. This, Geoff. Any press is good press, right?
Yeah.
All right. I want to talk golf betting with you. You're one of the most widely respected golf content creators and golf bettors in the space now, who's built up quite a following over the years. So let's say it's Monday morning. You just woke up. You're probably a bit hungover because I know you indulge in some Crown and Cokes on Sundays usually, whether that's in the NFL season or just the final round of whatever Sunday golf tournament is. What's the first thing that you're going to do on Monday to break down the upcoming golf tournament?
I hate it, Rob. Like, I hate having to be right on the wagon on Monday morning. And the week happens so fast because you just have Monday through Wednesday, then your content dies. And I just like to see what the odds are, what's first up there. And then everything from that is like a pivot point of, is that a good number or is that just better than what dropped first? I just like to see the odds sort of roll out. I compared a lot, Rob, to people who, like, on a Sunday night, you see those first football lines come out for the weekend.
Right.
And like you're so fresh on what just happened and what your eyeballs had. And you think you make this opinion and you might even make a bet. But then come like Thursday, Friday, you're like, oh, I don't really feel that anymore. Like, you're so past like what your eyeballs thought. But it happens just so quickly in golf. And for the purposes of content, when I first started doing golf, or when me and you started betting golf and helping Cam with his segments or just producing them, like, I wouldn't even look at a golf board until a Tuesday afternoon. And me and Pat had some early success doing it. He's like, no, we got to get the show out Monday. I'm like, Monday? I don't want to look at golf yet. Like, I'm still like into like my head's still about last week, but in the content realm that we live, if it doesn't get out Monday, like, it's pretty much useless because it's not worth the effort that you put into making the show happen because it expires. You know, what's the latest someone's actually listening to the show? No one's no one's downloading it like at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday. I mean, maybe they are, but you know what I mean? So the shelf life is small, but if we're at a course that they've been to before, then it's pretty easy, Rob. I mean, you would know that. It's a course, it's a regular stop. Next week, we got the Travelers. Done. Easy. You can just see the past scores, the past winners. You have your memories of it. You sort of know what player profiles work well there. It does get a lot more difficult in major weeks when there is such an unfamiliarity with a course, or when we go to places that are totally brand new, or even like last week where they hadn't been for a decade, and you're just trying to correlate how the modern players will hold up to certain places. So yeah, I don't know. My head is spinning out of the gate Monday, and it's usually just a lot of fat thumb refreshing, wondering why these websites have like LPGA and seniors odds up, but not PGA odds up. That's really my Monday morning.
Now, are you processing those odds in real time on Monday? So, like, for example, you'll see opening odds, you'll see them move, you'll try to understand why the move is happening. Like, I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. It's kind of why I find golf overwhelming, is because the moves happen so quickly a lot of the times, and you just really don't, for me, it's not conducive to my schedule and the timing of the bet. But walk us through what that looks like. Are you opening up multiple sports books? Is there one that you're looking at as your early indicator of what the market is? Just walk us through that first hour or two.
Yeah, so multiple sports books are up, but you also have an understanding of like the order for which they come.
Right.
I mean, for the most part, they sort of roll out at a similar pace, and like that one will never show up before that one. If it does, that is so weird. There was a time when one book that's normally first, like it was almost lunchtime and it wasn't out yet, and you're almost wondering if an accident's taking place over there. Like, what is going on? Because no one else can react. And yeah, you do see lines that like you think that's a great number, but you don't really have a comparison to. And then you see another, open the guy up at half, and you're like, well, is that number good? Is that number bad? Like, what is the right number? I really do like, what I do love is that some books now allow you like a full cash out, where it's almost like a move where I can bet that number. Like, that number, worst case scenario, is good for me. If I see better, I can react to better, but like, I'm happy if that's worst case scenario. And if I want to pivot off that, they get me full cash out. I'm also degenerate enough, Rob, where I'm seeing all the lines where if something's good, if I've bet on something and it's going to move against me, there's a chance that I see that wind blowing and I can get out of it. I still get my full cash out before they even adjust. So I love that cash out feature. It allows me to plant a flag in the ground, but it also allows me to pivot off of it as other places are making other moves. And like you said, my Monday is dedicated to getting that show done. My Monday morning is dedicated to getting that show done with Pat. So I am actually, at least, you know, it's possible I can get burned, got to take my kids somewhere, but I am for the most part able to like see the wind. There are a few people I'm out there. People do like my content. That's flattering, but there are people that are far more methodical than I am that, in my opinion, actually like can move a number. And, you know, I'll see what they are up to and whatnot. But yeah, it's honestly like nonstop. Like, as you mentioned, my leg, I have physio on Wednesdays, even on Mondays, even after my show. I'm like I'm getting stretched and I'm just sitting there on the table, like fat thumb refreshing, waiting for the other books, hoping the guy that's like 60 can pop up at an 80 somewhere. You got to get hitting one of these is hard. And I think the numbers are never fair. And I like to have fun, and you got to have fun responsibly. And when you do outright golf betting, you've got to be willing to absorb a losing streak. Like I won 3 in a row, and then I didn't win for like 8 weeks, 9 weeks. It was really frustrating. Yep. But it's part of it. And then you get to majors and you have people that want to like tentpole bet it. They can take a big L, and they're not like coming in to bet the Travelers next week. And they're not thinking like, oh, I just need water to find its level on a, if I hit my quota of outrights for the year, like I'm fine. You know, it doesn't have to be a major, but if you're just going to come in for tentpole events and do outrights, there's a good chance you're going to go 0 for 5 on golf events, the 4 majors and the Players, without hitting an outright. That's just
right.
That is outright golf betting. So, you know, there are more methodical ways to do it, be it matchups and other things I'm sure you'd want to get into. But yeah, my Monday morning is just trying to hawk like the odds. And I don't think if you hit the favorite, you're getting enough. I don't think if you hit the underdog, you're getting enough. But this is the only outright golf betting landscape I've ever known, so it's the one I'm sucked into. But to make an outright golf bet, or to pick a guy to win with 150 players, with the 8 trillion variables that can happen over 18 holes and 4 rounds that require the luck, I am just trying to project a guy to play well. Like, to be perfectly honest, like, right. I'm making a bet. I think he's going to play really well this week. The win is just like an activation luck cherry,
right?
You know, how do you project a win on PGA Tour golf? You know, it's pretty wild. It's just, you know, so there.
Crazy about the cash out stuff there. I think that's very, very interesting. So you're basically you're free rolling the book.
Yeah,
it's the other way around nowadays, you know.
Yeah, it's completely different. I mean, there's so much to unpack from there. There's like a million things that I want to talk to you about from that.
Sorry, I went all over the place.
We were staying silent for so long.
I'm
a
rabbit.
That was great. So listen, I will unpack all these things that you said in there because I think there's a lot of good stuff. But I want to start with what you kind of ended on, which was you're betting golf outrights market. There's way more variance in the sense that you could literally go months without winning. You could, if you're betting outrights, you could go the entire season without winning, right?
Yeah, especially if you're putting some real long shots, like near the top of the board. I mean, we've had other guests on who said, you know, there's usually not value near the top of the board, but if you're betting like 30 and 40 to 1s, like that's, you hit one a season to break even. You're not expecting to win a bunch.
Correct. So I want to go through like the mental state of that, Geoff, because that's always hard for me to deal with. And it was something that I struggled with golf betting, because you could literally, like I said, go months without winning, but your process might be sound and you don't really know it. So when you're going through a prolonged losing stretch like that, and I know you've had some before, what goes through your head? Like, are you reevaluating all the things you can do, you're doing? Do you just stay the course? Like, what's happening to you in real time when you're losing on a weekly basis?
Like, for example, this season, I had a pretty extended one. I didn't think I hit one between Joachim Neiman at Riviera and Justin Thomas at the PGA Championship. But in that period, Rob, I had even my buddies they're like, you're a second place wizard. And those can be the most frustrating, because second place is literally as hard as first place. Like, at least from the outright, like, Monday morning perspective of it. So at least in that case, like, I was swimming around the leader so much. The guy that won was part of my thought process. Like, I'm like, no, I just got to keep plugging away, doing what I do. There was a period of the golf season where, that 20 to like 40 to 1 winner was being abandoned. It kind of was going above it, and then it got to a point with Rahm and Scheffler, like where it was kind of sticking in front of it. And that can be when that happens, that's going to be costly to me, because I love living in that like 25 to 55 to 1 range, because that allows me to have fun, make entertaining content where I'm picking like a handful, I guess, of players. But it's just something I remind myself all the time, like it's going to happen. When I'm getting hot, like I'm prepared, thinking like this cold winter is coming. You know, I guess that's all part of it. It's incredibly frustrating when you get blown out in golf. Like it's like in football, like don't feel like you're seeing the board clearly. You don't know that you're making right decisions. My biggest advice to all my friends that do it on the grind is you just got to take the L's. The worst thing you can do is try to like chase it with a live bet or Sunday. Like, I don't want to turn 1 tournament loss into a 3.5 tournament loss.
Good point.
Like, or a 2.5 tournament loss. Like, I have gotten so much better. Back in the day, Rob, I used to like try to chase an L all tournament, and that got really expensive when you like really got screwed on Sunday, or the guys don't hold their leads, and there's so many trap doors. Outside of like majors are different. It's Father's Day. My wife's just given me the couch and the keys, and it's all mine. And the Masters, I might find myself overexposing. That's like how people might bet the Super Bowl or March Madness. I'm not here to say like I like part of, I think, what has made me successful, and it might not work for everybody, is that I've stayed true to like, I'll still like bet with the gut. I'll still bet favorites. I'll still be emotional about like biases, but I do get to have conversations each week with the guys like behind the models, entrenched in the models. And, you know, they'll throw my perceptions and like tell me how like false reality they are. And then I try to like make a blend of it. And, you know, in this concoction that, you know, spits out picks, I'm not beholden to any kind of model. It's golf. If a guy can't pass your Sunday eye test, I think he can make that like big 10-foot putt. Like, I don't care what the math says.
Right.
I know like that's weird in like a pitcher batter matchup sort of way, but like to bet a guy, you have to truly believe that he can like do it. You know, much, I guess, like a base, but it's not a team. So I guess there could be a lot to unpack there as well. I have a lot of fun doing it, but my best advice is like, just take your L and move on, because there's 48 other weeks of these, and it gets messy when you chase them.
So here's the issue though. All right. With the golf and chasing and not chasing your bets, for the average recreational bettor, guy betting, looking to have a fun time. Okay. Let's say you place 5 outrights, Geoff, on Wednesday. Okay. So Thursday come, you're looking okay. You have some fun Thursday. Friday comes, not so good a day. 3 of your 5 miss the cut. One guy's 10 strokes back, write him off. One guy's 5 strokes back. Saturday, leader pulls ahead. All your bets are dead, but you still want to sweat on Sunday. How do you not chase? That's the problem with betting golf outrights, is people still want to sweat the tourney.
You got to. Okay, so that's part of it. And like, if you're single or you're home and the wife's taking the kids out and you're just going to watch golf all day, then I'd say like bet it, make an entertaining bet. Like, I'm not saying not to bet it, but like a full chase can get really expensive. Like, that's kind of, I'm not saying you shouldn't like make another bet on the tournament. You're not allowed to be entertained on the weekend because you made bad bets. I just mean like, you know, just be responsible. You don't need to turn losing 1 tournament into losing 2.5. But again, you can do that, and then you don't have to make another golf bet till the next like major. I'm in this position where I want to like not hate myself on Monday morning. I got to like do the Travelers. I got to do the Sanderson Farms. So I try not to like put myself in those positions where I like hate myself and hate looking at a golf board.
I think,
okay. So I was just going to say that, but that's the one like thing about golf outrights, because they're over 4 days and there's like, you're not really like, you're out of it. Like you could lose your bet on the 3rd day. It's still a live bet, but you have 0 hope of winning it. So like, that's the problem with like, for the fun of it. It's like, how fun is it, man, when you have like a guy in the final pairing, like that Sunday you're sweating hard. It's usually like a plus 3,000, great time.
Yeah, listen, I completely get what you're saying. And Geoff, you've probably experienced this as well. For a long time, I was doing DFS golf, right? Yeah. And you enter the max lineups in a tournament. You enter your 150 lineups, whatever. Most of those lineups, you're going to have like 70% ownership of one guy. That guy misses the cut. Okay, like all my lineups are now dead on Saturday. Am I going to be prepared to watch the weekend golf without any action in it? No, it's difficult to do, but it's like the balance of recreational versus, you know, spiraling down that problem.
If you lose your total shirt, like you go 1-7 on an NFL Sunday, should you try to win all 6 of those L's on Sunday Night Football, or like just get like one of like, you know, just bet it like a game, like it's a game, like one game. That's kind of just, I guess, what I mean. Don't get me wrong. My card is over. It's Sunday morning. I want to bet a guy 6-1 in that second last group, a couple back, because I'm going to be sitting and watching it. But I'm not like trying to make the whole week perfect, I guess, would be my point. And again, I'm speaking as someone that's like getting right back on the wagon next week. That isn't just like doing tentpole tournaments. So it can be a very different perspective. I have buddies just like for the US Open, like you don't bet golf. Who should you bet for the US Open? It's so weird that I would say, I don't know, pick 2 of Thomas, Rahm, and Scheffler. But if you like bet golf, I'd give you like my card with guys between 30 and 50-1 and say, no, do this. Like, it's a really weird like thing. I don't know. That's golf's golf's weird like that, I guess.
I think in outrights markets, that's not uncommon, where like someone will ask me, okay, who should I bet? And it's like, what's your goal? Like, are you trying to maximize your expected value, or do you want someone in contention on Sunday, likely to be in contention on Sunday, that might not necessarily have the best value, right? So, you know, if I'm telling one of my friends who's going to watch the the US Open all week, I'm probably going to, recommend someone who's likely to be there on Sunday. That way they can have a sweat. But if I'm talking to another one who really understands betting and their goal in the long run is to maximize their EV, then I'm going to give them the best EV plays. And that might include somebody who's at 150-1, who has a very small percentage chance of winning, but should probably be priced at 80-1 instead, or something like that. So I get that. I think what's really fascinating about you, Geoff, and you've already described this as the way, as you've gone through here, is your handicapping style is like this amalgamation of all of these things. So there's like some data perspective. Some of it is gut feel. Some of it is listening to the people around you and who they might like. Some of it is just finding, I don't want to say stale prices, but potentially off-market prices or something like that at a sports book. If you had to boil it down to one, like something that is your true style, if you had to go with something and you could cut out all the others, what is it going to be for you?
When it comes to golf, I believe you could beat like the top 3 players in the world if you had to stare them in the eye like Tide on Sunday. Like I get, like I like to make a golf, like the thing with golf betting too is sometimes like, okay, that like could be a great number. I don't think you're gonna win. So like that's an 80-1. It should be 50, but it's like, I don't know. I don't like you to win the tournament. So that doesn't mean anything to me. It's not like getting 2.5 points on a football on a football spread. I still have to believe that you can win the golf tournament. But so much of it now is just it's the data and the gut. Like it's just this blend. I like seeing my realities and perceptions meet. Right? Like my eyeballs are telling me everything is trending well for player X, and then I go onto the data and it's just showing like it's confirmation bias, I guess in that data. But I don't know. I'm not afraid to. I get sometimes picking the same guy a lot, but it's worked for me because these guys are 30, 40, 50-1. And I believe like they're winners. I believe that win is imminent. And I just like feel like I've been successful in identifying that player and then getting that win like in the summer. And as you mentioned, it only takes one to make that player profitable for you sometimes.
I want to break down when you say the data. I want to break that down a little bit because that can mean very different things to many different people. And you brought up the baseball, which I think was a great example earlier of a lot of people would say, oh, I use data for breaking down baseball. And then one guy would be like, yeah, I like to look at batter versus pitcher stats. And some other person would be like, well, why would you do that? It's a small sample. It's a complete waste of time. And he'd be like, well, it's worked for me over the years. And what I tend to notice with golf bettors is that everyone has a different opinion on what data sets are valuable. So you get people who are like, course history matters. If a guy has played well at this course, I typically want to back him going forwards. There might be someone else who says, well, it matters, but it's already priced into the market. There might be someone else who says, it doesn't matter at all. It's the course fit. It's how the course is broken down more so than the history there. And then you get other stuff like strokes gained, where someone's like, I'll only look at strokes gained off the tee approach. And someone would be like, well, strokes gained off the tee, I mean, I like to look at, a more refined set of stats, which includes their accuracy versus their distance and stuff like that. So when you're talking about data, Geoff, I'm curious as to what is valuable to you, and specifically on the, the topics of course history and strokes gained. Are those things that you think are valuable?
Okay. So I acknowledge, I am incredibly spoiled when it comes to this, matter. Just as an example, getting to, work with you a decade ago, when I say I'm into the data, that could have literally meant I got to turn my chair around and ask Rob Pizzola a question, as silly. And then going to Fantasy and having just full access to turning my chair around in the office and getting to ask Pat a question. Before, now it's, I'm very much invested in support Fantasy National and the type of things you can do there, where you can pick your course conditions or your stat models, which stats you want to key in on this week. And I'm fortunate to get to speak to Pat, to speak to people like Rick Gaiman. I guess my situation is very unicorny in that I have my opinions, Rob, but I am lucky enough to be surrounded by people who are so deep into that other stuff that I can just make this total blend. But I'm very much into the golf data and the strokes gained, the approach, the around the green, whatever's pertinent to me that week. I like to load up and I like to see a lot of green trends around the players that I'm supporting.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I want to pivot a little bit here to this week because we have the US Open. This is not a picks podcast. We very, very rarely do that. In fact, last time I think we did, we had you on, Geoff, for the Super Bowl halftime special. But I want to talk more so about general strategy around majors because, again, I think there's a lot of differing opinions on this as well. I tend to see people say at majors, they typically only want to bet guys at the top of the board because the courses are going to play a lot harder. Looking at the course this week, I've seen the rough around the greens. I've seen that the greens are basically like glass this week where nothing sticks at all. Is that something that you typically buy into at the majors where you just want to back the top horses? Or is it just treated like any other tournament?
No, I think you really do need to, especially the US Open. They've given us a pretty clear player profile type. And we go to these courses, Rob, that we are very unfamiliar with. So that creates a lot of unknowns. So for me, the safety net truly is the prototype. Dustin Johnson, Brooks, Woodland, Bryson, Rahm. I mean, the USGA is giving us a path. And until they tell me or show me that I need to pivot, I think I'm going to die on that path, to be perfectly honest. And the other majors in many, specifically the PGA Championship, can follow that in the course selections that they do go to. And yeah, to your almost opening point for major championships, I do believe in that Brooks Koepka theory, where probably 78% of the field, you might be able to put an X through their name before we even tee off on Thursday mornings.
Just out of curiosity, unrelated to betting, do you enjoy it more when they set up these courses to be extremely difficult, or like does that interest you more in watching the players struggle? Like majors, we've seen majors before where players finish over par, which, you know, you hear a lot of complaints at the press conferences afterwards about how hard the course is and so on and so forth. Just as a casual fan and not a bettor, do you enjoy seeing that? Yes,
I do. I think I love what the USGA does. You hope that they can keep the integrity of the tournament for over 4 days. Field integrity would probably be my most important, you know, factor in a major. But I do enjoy that. But like I said, this kind of goes back to Rob. Like I'm on this train for the entire year. So I'm part of it when it is like 26 under, like at Craig Ranch and when we have the swing season. So I get it all, but I really do enjoy these sorts of events. I don't doubt that. Like last year when we made the turn at the US Open and your leaderboard had like Bryson, Rory, Brooks, Rahm, Louis, Morikawa, and it was just almost like a survival of the fittest finish, and Rahm hits those putts. I think that's the best. I really do.
I go back and forth with it. Do you have an opinion, Johnny? Do you like harder golf or easy golf? Like, does it matter to you, or is this all the same?
Like, okay, personally, I like when I'm watching the tournaments, I like it more when it's kind of like not easy to get a birdie.
Yeah.
So like, it's like, okay, this is the hole where he could get a birdie. Like this is a birdieable hole. And then where there's another hole where it's like, okay, there's a legit shot at a bogey. So if you're like watching, sweating a matchup, you're like, okay, this guy, they're tied, but this guy played one extra birdie hole and this guy played one less bogey hole. So actually I'm up right now. Like I like that level of intricacy.
Yeah. See, I go back and forth on it because we come off the Canadian Open last week where the final threesome wasn't a pairing, was Finau, McIlroy, JT, who are just like carving up the course. But I found
what did Rory finish with? 19 under?
What was the winning score, Geoff? Do you remember offhand?
Yeah, I believe it was 19.
Yeah.
19 or 18.
But like Tony Finau shoots a 64 in the final round, doesn't even come close to sniffing the win, nor did it ever feel like he was in contention. But I kind of like that. I like when guys are dialed in and like you see all those birdie opportunities and possibility for guys to just make up a lot of ground. I'm not a huge fan of like the super, like a guy hits an amazing shot and like it just rolls off the green because the green's a cement.
Okay, I think that it's easier to come back and makes for more exciting golf when like the winning score is like -5 for the tournament, -4 for the whole tourney, because then it's like it's not as much variance. When you go like when it's an easy course, it's almost like I guess somewhat of a guarantee that like the golfers who are at the top of the board are gonna win the tournament.
Yeah.
And the problem is it's the fine line that it creates, and the USGA fights this battle each year because they want to make it really tough. But to Rob's point, the second like you're not being rewarded for hitting a great shot, that's when it's not good. Like to me, that's when you have now crossed a line. You should be penalized for bad shots, but great shots, good shots, you should be rewarded for them. And that's when the players, I think, really start to get frustrated and lose their cool, is when they hit that exacting shot and it plays out as Rob mentioned. And we've seen that with the USGA. Like they've even admitted mistakes at the end of days where they get weather or certain situations wrong and they totally lose a course. And with it, you could argue they lose the integrity of a championship.
Well, I guess technically, what should the cut line be for a PGA tournament? Par?
Even par?
If even par
no, even less. Even a cut. I think you can be like a few over, and that's a good cut line, because it's usually cut line's usually roughly 10 strokes off the lead. So 10 under would be like playing fairly easy. So let's say 5 over as a cut line.
I don't really know exactly like how that stuff works, but what I'd say is I'm way more entertained when there's like, it's kind of difficult and you can really just scope out and like, okay, a par is nice for a hole and you might get a bogey in like 2 birds or 3 birds per round. And then that way it's more interesting when someone does make that birdie.
So my theory on this is that a lot of people would agree with you.
If the birdie's the norm, it's not that fun.
I agree, but I think my theory on this is a lot of people agree that they like to see it more challenging because it makes the pros look like them when they go play the course. Like, you know, Rufus, a mutual friend of ours, is in Boston this week, and he was watching like some practice rounds as they set up for the US Open. And he's messaging me yesterday saying, these guys cannot hit out of the rough by the green side. Like literally 40% of the shots I'm watching them practice around the green, the ball is not getting out of the rough.
Yeah, no, I'm hearing great quotes like these guys hit the ball out of the rough and they approach the green like they don't know where their ball is. And that's like us, Raw. Like we hit a ball, like we knew it got up there, but like we don't have a clue where it is. And that's such an amazing, like to hear that being said about them, like you're literally going up there to find your ball. Like that's what we do every single time we play.
They got the spotters,
but like, but people, but the spotters don't like the Canadian Open played very easy, like
so extremely easy. Yeah,
but
minus
I was on the 18th hole watching drives come down, and they'd go into the rough, and the spotter would go over there and mark it and point it out. The golfer and the caddy would go up there, and they still couldn't find their ball because the rough was so deep that they actually had to look. They'd have to call. They would spend a couple minutes still looking for the ball that they knew exactly where it was. It's a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, okay. I guess because like for us, if we're on the course, like we're swiping the club, like we don't care about if we
kicking our feet,
accident.
you know, like trying to give, it's a bit of a joke when like
Rob's moving his ball onto the fairway.
Yeah, I'm always giving myself a line, you know? You notice how I always find my ball in the woods and I have a line to the green? It's not by accident. Like, you know, I'm not going to be that guy who's chipping out like backwards. You know what I'm saying?
If Rob punches out of the woods and he's like, oh, I didn't have a line, he punched out, that means he really lost his ball, dropped another out of the pocket, and then punched out. No, I'm kidding. He's not even a cheater. He's a big sandbagger if you play people for money, but that's why I don't play him for money.
Geoff, when you golf, I know you'll be back out there soon. Hopefully the leg recovery, the leg heals well in time for you to get out for some rounds this year. How honorable are you when you're on the course? Like, are you treating it like you're a pro when you're out there with your buddies?
If we're playing for money, then that's like different. Like then we'll have our rules. I will never hit from a bad lie. Like, I don't mean like I won't hit from the rough, but I mean like, no, I'm not even keeping score. Like I keep score, but I just mean like, it's not like hardcore. I'm not, if the ball's beside the tree, I'm just going to like put it where it's not a problem. Like I don't care.
Yeah, you're not breaking
money,
your club on the branch.
Then that's a different situation. We've got to sort of deal with that. We'll make our game rules. But anyway, other than that, no, I'm gonna just take a better lie and hit my bad shot that way.
Honestly, I agree. For our level, as like where Rob and I play, like it just makes the game less. It's so much less enjoyable if you have to like hit out of hard rough, because then you're like. Or even if it's like,
but like if your ball's right in front of a tree, right? Like I'll play with some of my buddies who are like, I'll move the ball and they'll be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "We're not on the pro tour here." First of all, I mark that as a stroke every time I move it, anyways, because I want to keep my real handicap. So like, I'm still keeping like it's just I'm not actually hitting the shot where I have to go backwards and like, you know what I'm saying? Like, give yourself a lie to get to the green. I never understand that amongst like the recreational amateur golfers who are like. Oh, like it's basically Happy Gilmore, right? The rules state you must play the ball as it lies. It's like, what are we doing here? Yeah, I'm glad you're in agreement with us, Geoff.
Geoff, when are you going to be able to get out for a round of golf? How's the situation?
I'm thinking
lower body injury.
Like a couple of weeks. I'm thinking like I'm pretty close. I kind of got the end of this month like earmarked, to be honest. So we'll see.
It would be nice to play again this summer. True story, I played at Geoff's home course, which will be home of the Canadian Open next year, and in 2026, I believe. I think it's 2 years, right?
What course?
Oakdale. Beautiful. There's 27 holes there. I can't remember which 2 nines Geoff took me out on. But I would like to get out again, Geoff, because I literally played the worst golf of my life on that day I played with you.
Get out again. And I'm gonna invite Cam, and I'm gonna screenshot it. Because I invited him last time too. Like, there's no way I invited you to golf, Rob, and I didn't think like, oh, like Cam wouldn't, like, let's just play the two of us. I'm not going to invite Cam. So that's why, no, did I tell Cam like, oh, it's my private club? No, I just said me and Rob are golfing this day. I want you to come. I didn't like say like roll out a red carpet on an invite. which I guess led to some confusion through football season. There'll be no confusion next football season. We'll put it that way.
Geoff is referring to Cam Stewart, who is a host here in Canada, who we worked alongside for several years. But yes,
the Raging Redhead.
The Raging Redhead, as he's known. Everyone at every horse racetrack in Ontario will recognize him. Every casino in Ontario, he will get recognized as well. But yeah, Cam was I reached out to him last year, beginning of summer. Give me some dates that we can get out, me, you, Geoff, and I can't remember who I was going to invite as the fourth. Maybe a former colleague of ours, Eric Cohen. But I said to Cam, give me some dates. Guy's like, yeah, no problem. I'll get back to you. Never gets back to me. I'm hosting with him during football season last year on the Mayo Media Network. Guy calls me out for not inviting him out to golf. I'm like, buddy, receipts are right here. He's also ripping Geoff. He's like, oh yeah, Geoff, beautiful course, never sends me an invite. Everybody sent this guy an invite. He just never gets back to them. So, but that was a beautiful course. But true story, I felt so much pressure playing in front of this guy, in front of Geoff. Like
I suck. I'm the worst.
It doesn't.
I'm a hack. I don't even like keeping score. It's like getting on the scale. Like if I'm hitting my irons nice, it's like putting your pants on and they're looser. Like I don't need to make 2 putts to know that I'm losing weight. I know that I'm golfing better. If I'm putting my pants on and the button's not doing up, I know I'm getting fatter. If I'm topping balls all day, I know I'm playing like shit. I don't need a number because I couldn't get chip. Because I couldn't chip to get up and down. I need a score. Like I'm not dissing scoring. I like scoring playing with my friends. I'm just saying, like, I know by how I'm hitting it. Scoring in golf, like at our level, when I'm not practicing chipping ever. So how can I ever actually score at golf? Like if I have an hour and a half, I'm going to try to get out on the course and play as many holes as I can. I'm not going to a green or a bunker for 2 hours. That's just like, I don't have that kind of personality. So I kind of get that I'm not saying I've plateaued because I like to get older and have more free time and practice more, but yeah. And I will say one of my biggest regrets in life is not like golfing at 9 years old. I wish I had 20 more years of chips in these wrists.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine having 25 more years of chipping in your wrists? How much better at golf you'd be?
Of course.
Golf's a life skill. You got children, people, get them out there. Like, I regret not like taking advantage of my dad trying to get me on the golf course. Epic miscalculation, I tell you.
Yeah, I want my kid to be an unreal golfer, and then people are like, oh, well, how are you so good at golf? It's like, my dad put me in early. Like, oh, is your dad golf? Nah, he's trash. That's gonna be the story. Nah, he's junk, but he put me
money. Yeah, people will be chasing the golf dream too now.
It's true. So yeah, I mean, while we bring it up, just what was your perspective on that? We talked about this last week. Obviously, we can look at this from a number of perspectives, but I'd like to focus mainly on the players. Like, do you view any of the players who've joined the LIV Tour any differently than you did beforehand?
Yes and no. I think everyone, like, they all have the right to do whatever they want to do. It makes total sense. It's more money for less dates. It's guys that, for the most part, like, you know, just don't want to like maybe golf when they're 60 and do that whole PGA into Champions Tour and just retire. So no, I don't besmirch them. I do think it's weird. You know, like Phil, just like in the nutshell, guys, like when you look like what he is worth, like in the way Jack and Arnie are just so prominent in their older age, like it's a really weird thing that he might have potentially given up, but he got paid to do it. I will just say selfishly, I don't like change. I don't like when my favorite website changes. So you invest all this time and life, and I'm not even talking about the betting aspect of the PGA Tour. We've invested so much time and energy into the PGA Tour that I care. I'm not saying they're right or wrong. I just care. I don't care to watch LIV, but I'm so fascinated by it. But no, I don't hold it against the players. But I do think that they have to live in the bed that they're going to make. And you've ever seen a guy get 200 million, and like, shouldn't they be having a press conference at the Four Seasons, like holding up a big check in a Gimlick's jersey or a High Flyers jersey with a smile, like you're a Scott Boras client? Like, there's just this whole weird vibe around all of it, you know?
Yeah, well, people are trying to attack other people for, I guess, call it achieve a certain level of success or whatnot. But
or you could do it outside the Four Seasons total landscaping as well, instead of the actual.
I just, you know, it just, at the moment, it's an exhibition. And the moment they get more players, that will change. But in the current format, and I want to go as far to say, I think it's been a success, and I don't think it's been celebrated enough of the success that it is. When you do consider, friends, at Riviera, at the Masters, this thing was declared dead before it started. Like, dead in the water was major publications. Like, dead before it started was what major publications headlines were as it pertained to this. And that was April. So if you take those headlines and then you attach to what happened a week ago, well, that has to be a success. And Portland in a couple of weeks is going to probably be a bigger success. And it's not going anywhere. And I'm just incredibly fascinated by it. I don't even know if I answered your question, Rob. I'm sorry.
No, listen to this, though. There's different types of people, right, who want to do different things with their life. And it's okay to be like, I don't want to be the best golfer in the world and play with the best competition. I'll chase the money. Like, you have like Rahm and Rory who are like, look at the quality on that tour. It's garbage. I want to be the best. I want to be the best in the world and like leave my mark as the best golfer of all time. Like, I don't care about the money. I'm good on money, right? And then you have DJ. Someone's like, hey, buddy, like, what are you going to do in the over half the year where you're not going to golf now because there's barely any tournaments? And he's like, okay, listen, like, I don't know if you could have figured this out, but like, they're paying me so much more money and now I don't have to golf. And like, I never even really liked this that much. So like, this is a home run. It really is like, it's a best of both worlds for certain people. Like, DJ obviously doesn't love golf as much as a guy like John Rahm, who's younger and wants to be the best in the world. DJ's like 200, whatever he's getting. He's like, okay, and I don't have to golf that much. Perfect. See ya. Sayonara.
You almost wish this was in like the NFL, because you get this example of, I'm going to draft this D tackle from Alabama. Is this kid happy to just make the NFL and get this contract and this money, or does this kid want to be truly great? And LIV can be like, all those guys that just want the cash grab, like, that's where it just want, you know, making it is the win. Yep. You got to go to LIV. All the guys that like want to play against the best and try to achieve something, you got to stay here. I don't know. I guess what the craziest part about it is, at the moment, the power it feels like Augusta National has, and they're probably relishing in this power. But to consider that Augusta National like might actually hold the fate of the PGA Tour in its hands, because they're the ones that can help them in their stance for like legacy is important, and they can drain these guys out and then make efforts. If you ban Augusta from those guys, then you make efforts to do their best to keep the young stars. What I do believe is likely, potentially, is that all past champions will be honored. I don't think that's a fight Augusta wants, but they could make it incredibly difficult for anyone else to ever get into their tournament. So that's maybe what I see happening. But again, I don't know. I'm just so fascinated on what LIV means. I watched 8 seconds of it, not to even insult it. I just do not care about what's happening on the course. And from a betting perspective, I've already joked. I bet the LIV event like it's a Thursday night football, and here's some first touchdown bets, and I'm going to try to hit 2 tight ends at like 12 to 14.
Don't let that secret out of the bag.
My mindset is
Donald Parham.
Yeah, like that's sort
touchdown.
of where my mindset is on betting in units with LIV.
Yeah, we like to go for the tight ends who are going to see the field in the red zone. I mean, there's still a little bit of value there, but
yeah, understood. I think this is like, I said this last week, but it's like UFC and Bellator, like UFC and PFL. Like, you're not, as soon as you leave the UFC, you just acknowledge, you sign it away that you're not going to be ever like considered the greatest of all time, best in the world, you know, the guy. But also, like, some people don't care about that, and they're happy to just make a little more money and provide for their family and then just call it a day. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In terms of that, I think we should probably be like celebrating that, like, you know, whatever it is, but in some capacity, like there is now, and I know a lot of people don't agree with like, you know, potentially where the money's coming from and stuff like that. But I do think it's overwhelmingly positive that there is a market for more golf, which creates more opportunity for younger players to get into it, grow the sport, make it whatever it is. Like as soon as more money comes into it, that means more money, more eyeballs, more interest, stuff like that. Now, granted, we have to tread water on like, okay, well, where's the money coming from? Where's all this stuff doing? And I understand that completely. But for the most part, like growing the sport is usually a good thing, and providing more competition is almost always a good thing.
And I've been pretty vocal about it this week through the US Open that the only people I think are wrong, their opinions are wrong about LIV, are people who are saying, let's not talk about it. Why are you talking about it? Why are you bothering me about it? Like Brooks Koepka.
Yeah.
You can go, and that's cool. You can like, you're allowed to go or not hate the guys that are going. That is totally cool. And you're allowed to hate them, and you're allowed to hold 9/11 against them too. If that's the angle you want to take, like I allow you to take it. But this notion that like, why are you trying to overshadow the US Open with this? You're putting a dark cloud on it. That's hogwash to me. This is the biggest golf story in a lifetime, and every player who's been attached to it has to say something. And Scotty Scheffler's not being asked about it this week. Why? Are they giving him a free pass? No, he's answered his question so articulately about it that there's nothing left to say. Do you think John Rahm's going to be asked about it again like he was yesterday? No, because he made a great answer and there's nothing left to say. Brooks Koepka to say, why you, like, after 3 questions, why are you talking to me about this? I haven't spoken to my brother Chase in a week. Like, that bothered me the most. Brooks did a worse job than Phil. Phil was the first presser out there. He took questions. He stood out there as bad as it looked. It's Phil Mickelson. You sometimes like him more when he comes off as this flawed figure. Like, he endears himself in the same way. Every time Tiger had a scandal, it almost made him more likable. Like, I'm not even joking when it comes to Phil. Brooks Koepka has come off as the most unlikable player in the lead up to the US Open.
He's definitely the most unlikable player for me because of the amount of money he's cost me over the years, where I'm like that guy. Like, there's no way that there's this guy that can just keep elevating himself during majors. Like, this doesn't make any sense to me. This is all random luck. I've stuck to my guns for years. And then, of course, we know how that turns out most of the time. In terms of some actionable info, Geoff, do the Chargers run any 3 tight end sets? Because if they do, then we can probably get Trey McKitty at like 80-1 first touchdown scores at some books early on in the year before the books start to adjust.
Okay, I like where you're thinking, hiding in there behind Everett and Parham. You could be on to something, Rob, because they do like him, a 3rd-round pick from last year. I'm actually, I like where your head is at on that.
Donnie Parham Jr. is always a lock for a first
Parham is targeted quite a bit in the red zone. Yes.
And I don't want to like lament this right now, but the Charger season, like everything changed when with that first possession in that Thursday versus KC. For whatever reason, like that's where the whole season, like everything kind of went off the rails at that exact moment. Not to mention, like a lot of people, I had a first touchdown bet on that play as well. Yeah, I don't know. But Rob, I'll tell you, I've hammered the Chargers over 10 minus 118 wins. I know the exact like win data shows that they might not even be favored in 11 games, but I don't care. I am projecting greatness.
I'll tell you this. It's going on a half dozen years now where going into the year, I'm like, I love the Chargers. I'll bet some sort of Chargers futures. They always disappoint. I am not going to bet Chargers futures this year, and they will win the Super Bowl.
They're just very, very average. Very average. Extremely.
I love that. I love the Chargers. I love the Chargers.
But Rob, and I could probably find the messages. They're the exact same message. They're like, I love the Chargers. If their offensive line holds up, they could be amazing. And they have finally, like, the Phillip Rivers era is over, because that's where you'd always send me this message. You'd be like, is Okung, like, still good? Like, what's going on there? All that crap. There probably hasn't been a team that's invested more in the offensive line in the last year in the National Football League between Lindsay, Slater, Filer, another first-round pick this year. So they're like doing it. They're doing what you've asked, just like 8 years too late. They never did that for Phillip. They clearly know that if you protect Herbert, he'll make everyone around him an absolute god.
I agree with you. I hold them in high regard for this year, and I wish the Chargers the best of luck. Geoff, will wrap up on this. It's our closing question we ask to every guest on this podcast. If you could go back 5 years and talk to a previous version of yourself, what piece of advice would you give to your old self?
I've actually been thinking about this a lot. Because I think like Dave Portnoy is essentially like a Howard Stern of our era, and I don't care about like the Stooley bro stuff, just like what he created. And this is going to be micro. But if I allowed a live camera on myself during that Week 17 Charger Raider game, Rob, I would probably be a full-time Barstool Sports employee right now. I mean it. Because I rewatched, like after my surgery was the first time I rewatched it. Because I was drunk as hell, I'm sure, when it happened live, and it ended sad, so I didn't want to relive it. And one night, not being able to sleep, I watched the last 10 minutes of the game, didn't watch the overtime. If I had a camera on me during that like Herbert comeback and that overtime no timeout sequence, yeah, I probably would have been one of those guys like on the couches beside Portnoy for live streams now. I mean that. I would have.
Did you not join me?
Just pure natural.
Did you not join me for a Twitter Spaces in like the first quarter of that game, or did I give?
No, I think you asked me. I think I turned it down. I'm like, I don't think I can do that, Rob.
Too much.
Then I joined you the next week for the Monday nighter for Rams Cardinals, which was the most boring game ever. Because I didn't. You asked. I said, Rob, I'm not committing.
Oh man,
I don't know that that's my biggest regret, but like I don't know why, but that would have been bad. I also could have been canceled, so that could have gone both ways.
Yep,
it would be working at Barstool. Man, fully canceled. Something crazy that I said.
It's very possible in this day and age that you would have been canceled. It's Geoff Fienberg. You can follow him on Twitter at gfeinberg17. You can catch his stuff on the Mayo Media Network, where he was the runner-up, marginally, as the most insane person this year, marginally runner-up. Check out his stuff as well, Odds Checker US. Geoff, thanks for joining us this week. Go Chargers. Good luck with your US Open bets.
Thanks, Geoff.
All the best, boys. Anytime.